There's a monster under your bed right now. Not literally, but your brain doesn't know that. And here's what's strange. Somewhere deep in your mind, part of you wants it to be there. That's not a metaphor. That's not poetry. That's one of the most disturbing discoveries in modern psychology, and almost nobody talks about this part. Your mind doesn't just fear monsters, it creates them, on purpose, with intention. And the reason it does this will completely change how you understand your own thoughts. Let's start with something you've probably never questioned. Think about the last time you were home alone at night. The house settled, a floorboard creaked. And for just a fraction of a second, your heart moved before your brain did. You didn't decide to be afraid. The fear arrived like a visitor who already had a key. Now here's where it gets strange. Scientists studying threat response discovered something that breaks the simple story of fear. Your brain doesn't wait for evidence before it manufactures danger. It manufactures danger first, then looks for evidence to confirm it. You're not reacting to the world, you're reacting to a prediction your brain made about the world, a prediction it invented in the dark, half a second before reality even had a chance to speak. Psychologists call this predictive processing. But what it really means is this: you've never experienced raw reality directly. Not once. Every single moment of your life, you've been living inside a hallucination your brain assembled, a best guess about what's out there, filtered, shaped, colored by fear. And your brain has a bias. A deep, ancient, catastrophic bias. It would rather invent 10 monsters that don't exist than miss one that does. Think about what that means for a moment. Your mind is running a monster factory around the clock, generating threats, populating shadows, writing horror stories in every room you enter. Not because you're broken, because you survived. Because every ancestor you ever had made it through the dark, and the ones who didn't, well, they didn't become your ancestors. But this is where it gets disturbing. Evolution gave you this threat detection system for bears and rivals and poisonous things in the grass, but you don't live in the grass anymore. You live in apartments and offices and scrolling feeds at 2 in the morning. The system didn't update. The monsters just changed shape. Now the monster is a text message you're waiting for. It's the silence after you said something honest. It's the look on your boss's face at the end of a meeting. It's the inexplicable sense, sitting in a perfectly safe room, that something is wrong, that something is about to go wrong, that you've missed something, that someone knows something you don't. Modern anxiety isn't weakness. It's a prehistoric alarm system going off in a world it wasn't designed to read. But here's the part that should make you stop. Researchers studying intrusive thoughts found something genuinely unsettling. The vast majority of people, not a subset, not a troubled minority, the vast majority of ordinary psychologically healthy people report having thoughts about violence, about harm, about worst-case scenarios, about things they would never do but the mind serves up anyway, like some kind of deranged waiter. You've had these thoughts. You almost certainly have. The sudden image at the edge of a bridge, the flash of something terrible while holding something fragile, the unbidden thought that arrives without invitation and leaves you wondering what kind of person you actually are. And here's the disturbing answer. You're the kind of person with a brain. That's it. That's the whole answer. Because your mind isn't just a threat detector. It's a threat simulator. It runs rehearsals. It plays out the worst version of every scenario so you can survive it in advance. So the real thing, if it ever comes, doesn't catch you completely unprepared. Your monsters aren't signs of damage. They're evidence of intelligence. But then something strange happened, something researchers didn't expect. When they started mapping which people suffered most from these intrusive simulations, it wasn't the people who had the most dangerous thoughts. It was the people who believed their thoughts meant something, the ones who confused the simulation for the self, who heard the monster in the mind and thought, that creature is me. And that confusion, that tiny, devastating mistake in interpretation, is the hidden engine behind some of the heaviest suffering humans experience. Jung called it the shadow, the part of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. The darkness you push into the basement of the psyche, not because it's evil, but because you were taught it was. And here's what he discovered, what decades of clinical psychology later confirmed. The harder you push it down, the louder it gets. The more violently you deny the monster, the more the monster grows, because you are the one feeding it. With every refusal to look, this changes everything about how you understand your own fear. The monster under the bed isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to get your attention. It's made of everything you haven't processed, everything you've swallowed without digesting, every grief you bypassed, every anger you strangled before it could breathe, every version of yourself you abandoned because someone told you it wasn't acceptable. And your mind, clever and desperate and ancient, found a way to make you look. It built a creature out of all of it. It gave the unacknowledged a face. Now think about what this means at scale. We live in a civilization that is extraordinarily good at helping you avoid looking. The feed refreshes. The notification arrives. The next episode starts automatically. There is always something to pull your attention outward, away from the basement, away from the thing knocking on the door from the inside. And collective monsters grow the same way private ones do. Every moral panic, every demonized group, every shadowy enemy that a culture needs to blame for its confusion and its pain. These are not random. They follow the same psychology. A society that hasn't looked at its own shadow will project it outward, will find something external to carry the darkness it refuses to hold internally. The history of human cruelty is partly the history of unprocessed psychological material finding a target. That's not an abstraction. That's last century. That might be this one. But here's the twist. The one this whole journey has been building toward. The fact that your mind invents monsters. The fact that it builds threats from nothing and populates empty rooms with danger. This isn't only a flaw. It's also the thing that makes you capable of empathy, of story, of art, of sitting with another person's pain without running from it. Because a brain that can simulate catastrophe can also simulate another consciousness. A mind that can manufacture suffering can also imagine relief. The same machinery that builds the monster in the dark builds the hero who faces it. And you are both, always both, the dreamer and the dream, the fear and the one who can choose to look at it. There's a study worth knowing. Researchers asked people to simply name what they were afraid of. Not analyze it, not solve it. Just name it. Just turn toward it and say, "I see you." Brain scans showed something remarkable. The amygdala, the alarm center, the ancient fear engine, quieted. Not because the threat disappeared, but because something in the brain recognized that it had been witnessed. That the darkness had been acknowledged. The monster shrinks when you look at it. Not always, not instantly, not without courage. But the direction of healing isn't away from the dark. It's toward it, slowly, with your eyes open. And maybe that's the oldest story humanity ever told. The hero descends into the underworld, into the cave, into the dragon's lair. Not because they aren't afraid, but because something in them understands that whatever lives in the dark is part of them. And leaving it down there, abandoned and unnamed, costs more than the descent. Every culture, every mythology, every religion in human history has told this story in some form. We dressed it in different costumes. We gave it different names. But the structure never changed. The thing you fear is the thing you need to face. And here, right here, is where the video stops being about monsters. It's about you. Specifically, it's about the version of you sitting in a quiet room, maybe late at night, feeling a vague and nameless unease you've learned to drown in distraction. That feeling isn't random noise. That feeling is the door. Your mind invented monsters because something in you needed a reason to be brave. The question isn't whether there's something in the dark. The question is whether you're ready to find out that it's been waiting for you to stop running, and that it looks, uncomfortably, unmistakably, a little bit like you.